for Australian 10-cent coins, for different years, and one hidden story of change. These coins passed through millions of hands, witnessing a world that slowly moved from cash to digital money. What looks ordinary today may soon feel rare, because these small coins quietly mark the end of an era most people never noticed. Welcome back to Numis Explorer. The Australian 10-cent coin of 1976 may look small, ordinary, and easily overlooked, but its story quietly carries decades of national change, economic pressure, and hidden symbolism that most people never stop to think about. When this coin entered circulation, Australia was still adjusting to a massive shift that had taken place just 10 years earlier, when the country abandoned its old British pound system and adopted decimal currency in 1966. By 1976, the 10-cent coin had already become part of everyday life, passed through millions of hands in shops, buses, cafes, and schools. Yet few questioned what it truly represented. This coin was not just spare change. It was a product of a nation redefining its identity, moving away from colonial habits while still holding on to certain traditions. Struck by the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, the 1976 issue was produced in enormous numbers to meet daily demand, which makes its survival today seem unremarkable at first glance. But the real story begins when you realize how many of these coins have vanished over time through loss, damage, and melting, quietly reducing their numbers year by year. Every scratch and worn edge tells a story of movement, trade, and time passing, making each remaining piece a silent witness to Australia's everyday history during the 1970s, an era filled with social change, economic uncertainty, and evolving national pride. On one side of the coin appears the famous portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by artist Arnold Machin, a design that had already become familiar across much of the Commonwealth. Yet what many people do not realize is that this portrait was more than a symbol of monarchy. It represented Australia's complex relationship with Britain during a time when the country was slowly asserting its independence on the world stage. The year 1976 itself sits in an interesting historical moment, as Australia was navigating political shifts, inflation, and cultural transformation. This coin circulated while debates about national identity were growing louder, even though the Queen's image still appeared calm, youthful, and unchanging. For collectors, small variations in strike quality, wear, and toning from this year can dramatically affect appeal, turning what looks like a common coin into something far more intriguing. The edge, the lettering, and even the subtle curve of the Queen's portrait can reveal how well the coin was struck and how it survived decades of circulation. This quiet contrast between a timeless royal image and a rapidly changing society adds a layer of hidden tension to the coin's story, making it far more fascinating than its modest face value suggests. The reverse side, featuring the iconic lyrebird designed by Stuart Devlin, is where the coin truly whispers its deeper meaning. The lyrebird is one of Australia's most remarkable native creatures, famous for its ability to mimic almost any sound it hears, from other birds to mechanical noises. Choosing this bird was no accident. It symbolized Australia's unique natural heritage and its ability to adapt, imitate, and eventually create its own voice. In 1976, as Australia absorbed global influences while shaping its own cultural identity, the lyrebird became a subtle metaphor stamped into metal. The flowing feathers, detailed tail, and balanced composition required precise minting, and any weakness in the strike can tell experienced collectors exactly how and where the coin was produced. Over time, heavy circulation flattened many of these details, making sharply struck examples increasingly desirable. This creates a quiet suspense for collectors, because among thousands of worn examples, a single well-preserved 1976 10-cent coin can suddenly stand out, almost as if it escaped history's rough hands while its siblings did not. The more you study this design, the more you realize it was never meant to be flashy, but rather deeply symbolic and quietly proud. What truly makes the 1976 Australian 10-cent coin captivating is the contrast between how ordinary it seems and how much history it actually carries. Millions of people spent this coin without a second thought, never imagining that decades later it would spark curiosity, research, and even emotional connection among collectors and historians. Some of these coins sat forgotten in jars, drawers, or old wallets, while others traveled across continents, exchanged by tourists and migrants, unknowingly spreading Australia's story far beyond its borders. Today, when you hold one, you are touching the same metal that moved through a nation during a defining era, when Australia was learning to balance tradition with independence. The suspense lies in the unknown journey of each individual coin, because no two traveled the same path. Somewhere out there may still be a near-perfect 1976 example, quietly waiting to be rediscovered, while countless others have already disappeared forever. That mystery, combined with national symbolism and everyday history, is what transforms the simple 10-cent coin into a powerful time capsule, reminding us that even the smallest objects can carry stories far greater than their size or value. The Australian 10-cent coin of 2002 appears at first glance to be just another modern decimal coin, quietly blending into everyday transactions. But its real story begins when you place it within the larger timeline of Australia's monetary and social evolution. By 2002, Australia had already completed more than 3 decades with decimal currency, and the 10-cent coin had firmly established itself as one of the most familiar denominations in daily life. This was a time when cash was still dominant, yet the first signs of digital payments were slowly emerging, making coins like this part of a system that was unknowingly approaching transformation. The 2002 10-cent coin was struck by the Royal Australian Mint in large quantities, ensuring smooth circulation across the country, from busy city centres to remote rural communities. Millions of Australians handled this coin without ever considering that it represented stability in an era marked by global uncertainty following events like the turn of the millennium fears and rapid technological change. Each coin became a silent witness to everyday moments: school lunches, newspaper purchases, parking meters, while the world outside was shifting faster than ever before. The suspense lies in how something so ordinary managed to survive unchanged while society itself was evolving at an incredible pace, making this coin a quiet anchor to a specific moment in modern history. On the obverse of the 2002 10-cent coin is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley, a more mature and realistic depiction compared to earlier effigies. This portrait reflected not only the Queen's long reign but also Australia's ongoing constitutional connection to the monarchy at the start of the 21st century. By 2002, debates about Australia becoming a republic had already passed through a national referendum just a few years earlier, adding hidden political tension to the presence of the Queen's image on everyday currency. Many Australians saw this portrait daily, yet few stopped to reflect on the historical weight it carried. The finely detailed engraving, the realistic facial features, and the dignified expression were intended to modernize the coin's appearance while maintaining continuity with the past. Over time, circulation softened these details, turning sharp lines into smooth surfaces and making well-preserved examples increasingly interesting to collectors. The quiet suspense comes from the contrast between the calm, timeless face on the coin and the debates, opinions, and changes unfolding across the nation at the same time, all while this small piece of metal continued its silent journey from hand to hand. The reverse design, featuring the iconic lyrebird created by Stuart Devlin, remained unchanged in 2002, yet its symbolism felt even more powerful in a rapidly globalizing world. The lyrebird, famous for its ability to mimic sounds, represents Australia's unique natural heritage and its ability to adapt while maintaining its own identity. In 2002, Australia was deeply connected to global culture through the internet, media, and trade, absorbing influences from around the world much like the lyrebird absorbs sounds from its environment. The detailed feathers and elegant posture of the bird required precision striking, and variations in strike quality can still be observed among surviving examples. Coins that escaped heavy circulation preserved sharper details, while others tell their story through wear, scratches, and discoloration. This creates a sense of mystery for collectors, because within a sea of common coins, a single high-grade piece can suddenly feel special and rare. The lyrebird's presence adds emotional depth, quietly reminding viewers that even as technology accelerates and societies modernize, natural symbols remain deeply rooted in national identity. What makes the 2002 Australian 10-cent coin truly fascinating is the hidden contrast between its massive production and its individual journey through time. While millions were minted, no two coins lived the same life, and each carries invisible marks of the places it has been and the people who used it. Some were spent within days of minting, others rested untouched in bags or collections, waiting years to be rediscovered. Today, as cash usage declines and digital payments dominate, this coin begins to feel like a relic of a fading era, even though it is barely more than 2 decades old. That realization adds a layer of suspense. because many people still underestimate how quickly everyday objects can slip into history. Holding a 2002 10-cent coin now is like holding a snapshot of Australia at the start of the new millennium, a time of optimism, uncertainty, and quiet continuity. Its true value lies not in rarity or metal content, but in the story it carries, a story of routine, identity, and change hidden inside one of the most ordinary coins ever made. The next Australian 10-cent coin of 2012 may seem like a modern, everyday object, but its real history quietly connects to deeper changes in Australia's economy, society, and even the way people interact with money itself. By 2012, Australia had already entered an era where cash was slowly beginning to lose its dominance, with card payments, online banking, and mobile transactions becoming more common each year. Yet despite this digital shift, millions of 10-cent coins were still being minted and circulated by the Royal Australian Mint, proving that physical money had not yet surrendered its place in daily life. This coin moved through supermarkets, vending machines, public transport, and school canteens, becoming part of countless ordinary moments that were never recorded but still mattered. What makes the 2012 issue interesting is that it exists right on the edge between two worlds, the traditional cash-based economy and the rapidly expanding digital age. Many people spent this coin without realizing they were using a form of money that future generations might rarely touch. The suspense lies in how something so recent already feels like it belongs to a past era, quietly marking the end of everyday coin usage as Australians once knew it. On the obverse of the 2012 10-cent coin appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Ian Rank Broadley, a design that had been used since the late 1990s and was familiar to millions. This portrait shows the Queen at an older age, with realistic detail that reflects both longevity and continuity, symbolizing stability during times of global uncertainty. In 2012, the world was still recovering from the effects of the global financial crisis, and Australia, though relatively resilient, was not untouched by economic concerns. The Queen's calm and steady image stood in quiet contrast to the anxieties people felt about jobs, prices, and the future. Many Australians handled this coin daily without thinking about the deeper political and historical meaning of having a British monarch on their currency in the 21st century. The debate over Australia's identity and its constitutional ties had not disappeared, even if it was less visible at the time. This creates an underlying tension in the coin story, because while the portrait suggests permanence, history shows that nothing in currency design lasts forever. The reverse side of the 2012 10-cent coin continues to feature the iconic lyrebird designed by Stuart Devlin, a design that has remained unchanged since decimal currency was introduced in 1966. By 2012, this bird had already become one of the most recognizable symbols on Australian coinage, yet its meaning continued to evolve. The lyrebird's unique ability to mimic sounds makes it a powerful symbol of adaptation, learning, and survival, qualities that resonated strongly in a rapidly changing modern world. As Australia absorbed global influences through technology, migration, and media, the lyrebird quietly represented the nation's ability to adapt without losing its core identity. From a collector's perspective, the quality of strike and condition of 2012 coins varies widely, depending on how quickly they entered circulation and how heavily they were used. Some coins show sharp feather details and clean surfaces, while others already carry marks of wear, telling silent stories of movement and exchange. This contrast adds mystery, because even among modern coins, a well-preserved example can feel surprisingly special. What truly gives the Australian 10-cent coin of 2012 its sense of suspense is the realization that it may be one of the last generations of coins to be widely used in everyday transactions. As digital payments continue to replace cash, coins like this are slowly disappearing from pockets and purses, often forgotten in jars or drawers rather than spent. While millions were minted, their future is uncertain, and many may never circulate again. Each surviving coin becomes a small time capsule, preserving a moment when physical money still played a central role in daily life. Holding a 2012 10-cent coin today is like holding a quiet witness to a turning point, when tradition and technology overlapped in subtle ways. Its value is not defined by rarity or metal, but by the story it carries, a story of transition, routine, and the slow fading of an era most people never realized was ending. This hidden narrative is what transforms an ordinary modern coin into a powerful symbol of change, making it far more fascinating than it first appears. The last one Australian 10-cent coin of 2014 looks like a simple modern coin, but behind its familiar appearance lies a story connected to a very important phase in Australia's recent history, when everyday life, money habits, and national thinking were quietly changing. By 2014, Australia had already moved far beyond the early days of decimal currency, and coins were no longer symbols of novelty but of routine and reliability. Yet this was also a time when cash usage was slowly declining, and people were beginning to rely more on cards, online banking, and contactless payments. The 2014 10-cent coin was minted by the Royal Australian Mint as part of this transitional era, when physical money was still essential but no longer guaranteed a long future. Millions of these coins entered circulation, traveling through supermarkets, fuel stations, public transport systems, and vending machines, becoming part of daily life without attracting attention. What makes this coin intriguing is the fact that it represents normality at a time when the world was becoming increasingly fast, digital, and uncertain. Each coin silently absorbed the energy of a society moving forward, and the suspense lies in realizing that what felt ordinary in 2014 may already be disappearing faster than anyone expected. On the obverse of the 2014 Australian 10-cent coin appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley, a mature and realistic image that had become standard on Australian coins since the late 1990s. By 2014, the Queen had already reigned for more than 6 decades, making her portrait a powerful symbol of continuity and endurance. Yet beneath this calm and steady image, Australia's identity was still evolving, with ongoing conversations about independence, national values, and the future of the monarchy. Millions of Australians used this coin daily without reflecting on the deeper meaning of carrying a British monarch's image in their pockets in the 21st century. The portrait's fine details, from the hair texture to the facial expression, required high-quality striking, and coins that avoided heavy circulation preserved these details beautifully. Over time, were softened many of these features, turning sharp edges into smooth surfaces that quietly recorded years of use. This contrast between a timeless royal image and a rapidly changing modern society adds an unseen layer of tension to the coin's story, making it far more meaningful than it first appears. The reverse side of the 2014 10-cent coin continues to feature the iconic lyrebird, designed by Stuart Devlin, a design that has survived unchanged since Australia's decimal currency was introduced in 1966. The lyrebird is not just a decorative element. It is one of the most symbolic creatures in Australian culture, known for its extraordinary ability to mimic sounds from its environment. In 2014, this symbolism felt especially relevant, as Australia was deeply connected to the global world through technology, media, and migration, constantly absorbing new influences while trying to preserve its own identity. The detailed feathers and elegant posture of the lyrebird required precision minting, and differences in strike quality can still be seen among surviving coins. Some examples show crisp lines and strong detail, while others reveal heavy wear from years of circulation. This creates quiet suspense for collectors, because among millions of ordinary coins, a well-preserved piece can suddenly stand out as something special. The lyrebird's presence reminds viewers that adaptation is not weakness, but survival, a message silently carried by this small coin. What truly makes the Australian 10-cent coin of 2014 fascinating is the realization that it belongs to one of the last periods when coins were still heavily used in everyday transactions. As digital payments continue to dominate, coins like this are slowly disappearing from wallets and pockets, often ending up forgotten in jars or drawers instead of circulating freely. While the 2014 10-cent coin is not rare in the traditional sense, its importance lies in timing rather than scarcity. Each coin has lived a different life, passed through countless hands, witnessing moments that were never recorded but still meaningful. Today, holding this coin feels like holding a quiet reminder of a turning point, when physical money still mattered but its future was already uncertain. The suspense comes from knowing that one day, people may look at this coin with curiosity, wondering how something so common once played such an important role. That hidden future, combined with its silent past, transforms the 2014 Australian 10-cent coin into a powerful time capsule of a world slowly moving away from cash without fully realizing it.